What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. Branamier, Courtney, as always, here. Paul McClain.
Good to be with you, bro.
Good to be with you, man. Helping people level up their life in all the areas that matter most: faith, family, fitness, finance, and franchise. I said it last week, dude. I asked you what you were doing a year ago. You're like, dude, I have no idea. And
this is the anniversary, bro.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah.
I jumped the gun, dude. I was so excited for our 1-year anniversary. But you're right, dude. Episode number 52.
Let's go.
Come on, dude. 52 weeks helping people get better. And really, that's been our heart since the very beginning. It's just like, how can we help, friends, family, neighbors, people we know, people we do life with, and those that we don't know, that you're far away, that we've never met you, you're in a different town, you're across the country. Hopefully, we've been, by conversating, going back and forth, just helping people prosper, helping people reach the level that God's placed in them. And so, man, it's been fun.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. We're going to go deep today because it's 52. I forgot that again until you just said it. It is 52 weeks. This is a 1 year. And I think for one, when you say that, every time there's like a timestamp on something, I just think it's a good time to kind of pause, take a breath and reflect and say, hey, man, like, what's the biggest takeaway? Like, what's the biggest thing that I've taken from this podcast last year? Now, let me tell you this much. If you're like nothing, then don't watch it again. Right. Like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't for entertainment. There's all kinds of TikTok things you could probably watch that might bring you more entertainment. This is to help inspire you to go out there and be the next level version that God has created you to be in all these different areas. Not like we've got it together because we've said that multiple times, but hey, we want to figure this thing out. And we speak to things that we do believe that we have a good handle on, and things that we're actually living in a part of, whether that's faith, family, fitness, franchise. We're in all of that. So let's jump into some of the questions. These are questions that you guys provided. And so on the 1 year anniversary, we want to do our best to give back to you. And no better way than actually, address some of the questions you've had. And also, if it's not a question you've got, odds are, and I've always said this for years doing life insurance as we would get around and do meetings, like most of the time it is a question somebody's got. They just don't know it's a question that they have. Yeah. It's a question I used to always ask people, would be like, hey, what question should I be asking you?
It's the best question.
It's the best question if you didn't prepare, you screwed up, and you got something that's really going to help give you some great value, but you didn't have a list of questions. Hey, what questions should I be asking, given my situation, who I am, where I'm at? But this question, I believe it'll help you guys out. So we're going to jump right into the personal growth and discipline as we kind of segmented into what questions we've got and put it into topics. We got here let's see, how do you stay... Now, we did that one. What's one personal weakness? We did that one. How do you structure your mornings for success? Let's do that one.
Let's go.
How do you do, bro?
That's a good question. I feel like they've been different in different seasons of life. Like some seasons of life, I literally had no structure, right? Some seasons of life, I've been super disciplined. Yeah. I think now that I've gotten older, I've kind of figured out more of a better routine that fits me. So, if earlier in my life, when I didn't have kids, it's like, you could just wake up and kind of just do whatever you want, You can just start working whenever you want when you're self-employed, which I don't recommend. But now it's like, dude, I got 4 kids, I got a wife, I got a house to take care of, I got a business to run, I got people to meet with. And so you have to be disciplined, right? Yeah. So number one, I think it starts with waking up and just starting with a grateful heart, like warming up the mind, like go and grab your coffee and then immediately get into my word, throwing on some worship music, and just really, and it's not always super spiritual every time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just like, it's this routine. It's just habit that I got to read my scripture every day, journal, write down in the gratitude journal, write down in the morning discipline app, things that I'm grateful for. And then Mariah's doing the same thing on her end of the house, kind of just going through routine, getting in the word, journaling, prepping some thoughts for the day, prepping some big task things that I got to get done. And then by the time that's over, got to get the kids up, ready to go. And so it's usually from like, I don't know, Mariah's a little bit earlier than me. So recently she's been up at like 5. I'm usually up at like 6. Well, that's probably late for you, bro.
Wait, she's about 5. She's about 5 now,
dude. This year, bro, she's been like 5 o'clock, 4:45. She's been on it, which dude, I can't do that. That's
well, dude, she was up a lot later because she was staying up later. Because I hear Tosh talking about like watching an episode on Netflix until like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night.
She's been on it this year. Which, dude, I mean,
it tells you, hey, no matter where you're at, you can get there, right? It's 100%. Transformation, baby. You can step into a new version.
100%. But I think, it just depends on where you're at in your life. I think getting up early is always better than later, right? Sure. Having some sort of way that you express gratitude. So whether it's in a journal, whether it's in an app, whether it's reading your word, whether it's just saying daily affirmations, like some sort of like, hey, I'm going to start my day with gratitude, with Thanksgiving. And then once the kids are kind of off to school, which Mariah takes them in the morning, and then I'm, tackling the big rocks of the day.
I love that, dude. So. Well, I think for one, you've got to pick certain disciplines because there's so many, man. Like your morning 100%. Routine can be the entire day. Like, you're like, I'm done. Okay, well, it's 4:00, fool. You like, congratulations. You're fortified. You're mentally tough, bro. Your attitude's so positive, but you got nothing done. And so you got to kind of choose which ones are going to feed you best. And I love what you just said about like the structure because, it's like a great paradox. A lot of times we think that we just want all the freedom in the world. Like I remember like for me being young, like I really stepped into business at 19. I was like, dude, I want financial freedom. Like I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it and not care about anything, have no worries. And then you get to that point of financial freedom and you start to like unpack and let go of structure. You're like, dude, I feel miserable. I feel terrible. And it's not, the structure is where you find the freedom. The discipline is where you find that freedom. And I remember reading this, I can't remember what book it was, but it talked about like how people will go to prison, right? And a lot of times like the rate of somebody going back to prison after being in prison for a good period of time is super high. And really what it boiled down to, they said the theory is when they're in prison, they're told what to do, like lights on, lights off, like they know when to eat, they know when to go to the yard, like everything's so structured. And so when they get out, which is what they wanted was freedom, but now they've got to structure their own day. And because they've not created that discipline, oftentimes they create another, or they do another crime or what have you to get back to the place where they actually felt the best, which was where they had structure.
Yeah, 100%.
And to me, it's like, well, shoot, if that's the case, and I mean, it's pretty much applicable for everybody. And so really structuring your day, what I realized is that you can get so much more done than you think you can get done if you put some structure in.
Yeah.
And you ever heard that story? I think it was a professor that he's in front of the class, and he's like, he's got this big box, and he tells the class like, hey, I'm going to fill this up. Tell me when it's full. And so he first puts in these big blocks, and it's like, he's like, is it full? And the class like, yeah, it's full because it's full. Like it's got it. He's like, all right. And then he takes out some rocks, fills it in. The rocks kind of go in. He said, hey, is the box full now? And the class like, yeah, it's full. And then he puts sand in there and pours out sand. And he's like, is it full now? They're like, all right, it's full now. All right, you've got us 3 times. He's like, all right. And then he gets a big, gallon of water, dumps the water in, and now he's like, now it's full. And I think so oftentimes, man, it's a great example of our day and our life. Like if we don't put the big things, like you said, I put together a couple big things I got to tackle. If we don't do those things and we put the sand and the water in first, well, now when we put the rocks in, not even the big blocks, stuff's overflowing. And as it overflows, we feel overwhelmed because it's like, man, how do I fit everything in? I'm exhausted. I ain't got enough time. It's like, well, dude, did you put the big blocks in first? Because the big blocks give you a sense of like some successes underneath your belt. They give you some source of like fulfillment. Like I'm going somewhere. I'm taking some ground in my day. And so I love that, dude.
Yeah, I think that's great. Just to piggyback on that, I think there was a season in my life where I was super structured, and then almost like coming out of college, right? So it's the same thought. Like I had class, I had sports, I had gym, I was told what to do because I played football, like all this stuff, and then you get out and it's like now you have all this freedom, but it's like I don't know how to deal with all this freedom, And so you can make one of two decisions. You can figure out a way to become disciplined, or you can self-destruct, right? And so I think there was a period of my life where I was like, dude, I don't know how to function. You know what I mean? And then you don't see the result of like your actions necessarily day one, but like they catch up. So like if you're running a business, then you're undisciplined right now. Like you're gonna see the fruit of like your undisciplined like come in like 30, 60, 90 days. Yeah. Or like. For me, it's like if I'm not checking on my customers, if I'm not following up with people, like I might not see them cancel today, but like give me 60 days, you're going to see a whole list of cancellations come through. You know what I mean?
That's good, dude.
You really got to figure it out. I remember hearing a story about this basketball player who had retired at like 31. He had like $120 million, like retired early, just ridiculous amount of money. Yeah. But he's like, my whole entire life from like 8 to 31, all I did was basketball. I accumulated all this money. And in that 31, once I retired, I literally had no more purpose. Like I didn't have structure, I didn't have routine, I didn't have like disciplines, nothing. So it's like I literally went into a depression for like 8 months. Because like what am I supposed to do now? So he said he would wake up every single morning and just drive in traffic an hour and a half one way and in traffic an hour and a half another way, just to try to figure something out. Yeah. He's like, I did that for like 3 months just because like I needed something to do. But it paints the picture like, man, we have to have a purpose to go after, because you can without structure, like he was craving that discipline and craving that structure. Like you got to find something to fill your time, because if not, man, you'll sit at home and go insane. You think that's what you want, but it's really not.
Dude, I think we could just pick one question that we could piggyback and unpack some great stuff and provide good value. Because, like, dude, that has me thinking about, like, it's like the reality is the joy is in the journey.
Yeah.
But we get so focused on, like, oh, once we get here, once we have that, it's like, dude, no, you really had the most enjoyment and fulfillment when you were just doing the mundane things. And the one thing I tell you guys, too, is if you got into a place where some of these daily disciplines that you, before you started to put them in place, you sat there and you kind of plan, like, all right, I know if I do these things, it's going to lead to the result I desire. If you got to a place where those things now feel mundane, dude, congratulations. Yeah. Like it's getting ready to hit that tipping point, because that's when it happens, is when you get to a point where it's the tipping point's right there, but you feel like, dude, this is boring, man, like mundane, like I've been doing this. And then you start to go out there and chase a feeling of excitement or whatever else. Well, you just messed up, dude. Like even with fitness, right? With everything, it's like that the joy.
Which, speaking of, you called me out a couple weeks ago on that, so I've been back in the gym.
Let's go, dude. Yeah, I can tell, man. Just saying, I didn't want to tell you that I could tell, but I could tell before and after. But hey, the other thing too is, like, you know, the morning disciplines in the, like, early morning, and I appreciate your, you know, plugging the app. But the Leveled Up Life, the morning discipline journal, that's what it was for.
Yeah.
It might not be everybody's desired disciplines, but like I've gone through and unpacked them. It's got gratitude, affirmations, Bible, and then journal, and then challenges in there that will help you focus on the things that matter most. Yeah. Because how many know that in a distractive environment that we're find ourselves in day in and day out, it's hard to, like, put the things that matter most over the things that matter least, because the things that matter least are so apparent and they're so obvious all over the place, right? And so, but yeah, I appreciate the plug, bro. Let
me ask you this, man. Speaking of, like, discipline, structure, talk about, because there's a question on here that deals with motivation, right? So I think a lot of times we have to feel motivated to do something, or like the new year will come around, then all of a sudden you're motivated, or a birthday, or whatever. Like, there's typically some trigger that leads to motivation. Talk about times when you don't feel motivated to, like,
go do the thing.
Yeah, go do the thing. Like, is it a feeling that I need to get, or is it a discipline that I have to, like, is it a muscle that I have to grow over time? Like, what is?
Yeah, good.
I don't know if I'm asking the question
100%.
right, but, like,
no, yeah, dude, 100%. What
do you do when you don't feel motivated?
So I'll give you an applicable example. So it's like, if the alarm clock goes off, right? Like, you feel like just going back to bed. A lot, and not everybody does, but I would say most do. Okay. Especially when it's super cold. Bed's comfortable, it's warm. Like, you're kind of weird if you just want to just jump out into the cold. Right. I ask myself, like, well, how am I going to feel in the next 2 hours? So if I hit snooze right now, I'll feel good in the moment, but when I get out of bed eventually in 45 minutes, I don't feel as good.
Yeah.
But if I get out of bed now, I'm going to feel really good an hour later because I did what I was supposed to do. And so I try to, like, almost forecast how am I going to feel in the next 2 hours. It'd be no different than when I was running appointments. It's like, dude, there'd be a lot of times I don't want to drive to the last appointment at 9 o'clock at night, dude. In my mind, if I let it play in the wrong way, I can start being like, I start thinking about getting home early, what that would feel like, what that would do. And so now I'm almost like getting my mind down this path of doing the thing that I should not be doing, because it's not going to lead to my ultimate success, and the discipline is going to allow me to hit another level in my business. But so I got to stop there right away and say, well, what if, this one appointment is going to bring in $3,000 income? What if this person's, not going to come home tomorrow? So I kind of play that what if, because everybody's playing what ifs, right? Yeah. And so I just try to tie, I guess, my feeling to the forecasted, in the future, what am I going to feel like with anything? I mean, there's times I get in the door, bro, and I don't feel like spending time and not spending time, but like going out and playing basketball or something. I just want to just take a breather. It's like 7 o'clock at night, just got in, but I know, like, all right, I've already told my son I'm going to go play basketball with him. And so it's like, well, how am I going to feel in 45 minutes? I'm going to feel good. And the reality is, you always do feel way better afterwards. Like, think about gym. Everybody can relate to that. When you don't feel like going to the gym, you always, when you don't feel like going, you look back and say, I've never felt that good on the other side of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, we've talked about this a lot too, is like taking that thought captive, right? That stronghold, or that initial thought, because we all have, like, you can't control the thoughts that come into your mind, no matter who you are, but you can control how long they stay there, right? And so, like, you have that one thought of, like, I don't want to because I don't feel like it. So it sounds like what you're saying is, like, the quicker you could take that thought captive and, like, replace the lie with the truth is, like, the better off you'll be. I think most people struggle with, like, they let that thought linger for too long that it becomes their normal, and they don't even know what right thought to replace it with, right? So that's why you need outside voices, and the Bible and people that could raise your lid, like level up your life, because you don't know what truth to replace it with if you're around lies all day, because lies sound like the truth. You know what I mean? And so I think, that's why, it's a whole nother topic, but like dealing with like your kids and like who's speaking into their lives and like the stuff they're watching online, because they'll start to see this wild way of living as normal, and then you speak the truth and it sounds so like foreign to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good, dude. I think the other thing is like, for me, every time I'm struggling with that, bro, it's like it's a perspective issue as well.
Yeah.
So it's like it goes both. Like, what's your focus? Like, what's your perspective? So if I'm so focused on the pain of it and not the payoff, I'm more likely to make the wrong choice. But if I can focus on like the payoff, like how I'm gonna feel is tied to the payoff, the result can be tied to the payoff. So like, maybe going to the gym, I don't feel like going. It seems painful because it's outside of what you want to do right now. But if you can focus on the payoff, like how are you gonna feel when you drop 10 pounds? How are you gonna feel when you've got more energy? How are you gonna feel when you're living longer? And then you can even go really deep. So I would say go deep with the vision of the thing that's going to lead you to do the thing that you should do to take you to the new you. So like I'd go deep with like, all right, then I'm going to live longer. And if I live longer, I can watch my grandkids get married. Yeah. You go really deep. And then I do the same thing with the opposite side. So it's like, dude, if I don't feel like brushing my teeth at night or whatever, I could just go really deep. Like, well, if I don't do that, then my teeth are going to get messed up and I'm going to eventually lose my teeth. And then, I'm going to have, dentures. If my dentures fall out, and then my kids are scared, and then I go crazy, and then so it's like you go crazy in the other direction, and then it kind of helps you just. So I feel like we're always telling stories in our mind, dude. It's just the people that I think have a better outcome is they're just telling a different story that's leading them to a better action.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's painting the vision of what could be, which is the whole purpose of like this podcast. It's like we're trying to help you paint a picture of what could be, like what your life should be. I think the worst thing is that you live a life full of regret, full of shame, full of like, man, I wish I would have been disciplined in my 30s. That way I can, live fruitful in my 40s and all this stuff, man. I think when you're young, like you don't know any better. So it's like we got someone in here right now that just asked us like, what would you do if you're 19, like trying to be entrepreneurial? It's like, stay disciplined now, stay structured now, like forget all the wild living now, like, because that's what your friends are doing. Your friends are going to the parties. Your friends are blowing their money. Your friends are wasting their time. Like, be disciplined now. And, like, the life that you live, dude, like, super structured in your 20s, and then in your 30s, you live like no one else is living. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a lesson that if you could learn it now and really buy into it and make the decision, like, dude, I was talking to Blaze the other night because, we're talking about his goals and, like, what's he want to do. I was like, dude, you understand that you have to live a totally different life than everyone else, because everyone's saying the same thing that you want. Everyone says they want to be pro or whatever, but the reality is like 99.9 don't do it. Yeah. So like you got to do something different. And I think that's what we're talking about: structure, discipline, making good decisions. But it's like, man, we gotta capture the thought, capture the lie right away, and replace it with
dude.
Truth, so.
Well, let me ask you another question. And I think this is applicable to a lot of people that are going to after another level, right? This question is about how do you deal with people that are, kind of speaking negative to you. You call it haters, call it whatever you want to call it. But
got some haters, though.
Yeah. How do I deal with the haters?
You ain't got no haters. You ain't doing nothing, dog.
That's right. Hey, perspective. But what does that look like, man? Like, how do you handle that? Like, it's like for me, I knew when I got into business, like, and I've heard this for years. Mentoring and working with different people in business, like, they want to go after a career. They've worked a job, and the family's not supporting. And it might not be like, what are you doing? But it could be just little jabs like, hey, have you thought about getting a real job?
Yeah.
Like, how's that working out? Just like in the way they say it. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, and the funny thing is once you become successful, they're like, I was always rooting for you.
Yeah.
But like,
praying for you.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be the one.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that and keep the relationship still there? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, right? Depending on who it is. If you got online haters, it's like people in the comments and the DMs, like, at the end of the day, who really cares about that? Like, you see it, but I think you build up a tough skin of like, who cares? I don't know them, never going to meet them. It is what it is. That comes with like influence, right? And so, dude, it could be anything. I've preached sermons and people will put something in the comments about their thought on this and why didn't I say it like that? And it's like, well, dude, at the end of the day, you didn't preach it. And so, like, if you were going to preach it, you would have done it, and I would be commenting on yours as opposed to mine, right? That's a whole nother thing. But when it comes to people who are closer to you, who are just kind of like questioning, like, is this the right path, or is this what you should be doing, or like, are you sure about this? I think if you're sure of like the direction that you want to go after, I don't think it really should matter what they're saying. I think a lot of times what happens is when people see you moving quickly in a direction that seems to be good for you, like personal growth or self-development, people are confronted with their reality. Yeah. So it's like, man, that's good. I never took the risk. Therefore, I'm seeing someone close to me take risks, and it kind of scares me. And a lot of times, like if it's your mom or dad, like they only want what's best for you, so they don't want to see you fail. But I think it's rooted in they probably never stepped out and did the thing. And so they're like, I don't know, dude, that's a tough one.
I mean, I think you're onto something, bro. I mean, to me, it's like if they've never taken the risk, then it's almost like that familiarity, and it's a subconscious thing. It's not like so. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the thing that we're trying to disclose. It ain't conscious. People that usually take
a lot of big risks, like entrepreneurs, business people, typically never hate on other entrepreneurs or business people because like I sympathize with you. I've taken risks before, so I'm not going to hate on you for taking a risk. Yeah. But if you've probably never taken big risks or like invested a lot of money or stepped out or changed careers, and you see someone doing it, you're like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And it comes off kind of like as like they're questioning.
Yeah, well, I think it's like a sign to them of like a glimpse of what they should have done and what they still can do. Right. But if it works out, then it makes them more exposed of like, man, you should be moving. I mean, I think it's a pretty direct, bold statement that Ed Mylett says, but I kind of like it. He's like, the greatest form of child neglect is not going after your dream.
That's good.
You know, he's like, there's all kinds of different things, but he's like, if you're saying you go after your dreams, you go out there and crush it, and the question is like, well, mom, dad, why aren't you? Like, why aren't you doing it? You know what I mean? And that's something to wrestle with.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I believe that is a form of it, because when you're watching your parents say go do it, and then they're doing it, right? That's empowering. That's motivating. That's encouraging. But if you're saying go after it and there's no action on your end, man, that creates kind of somewhat of a confused state for the child without even really knowing why there's confusion. That confusion is there because there's a disconnect.
Yeah, that's good. I think it depends on like also at the same time, like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, and are the people speaking in your life just trying to speak wisdom into you? Mm-hmm. Like if they see you falling short or they see you not putting in work, then it's like, well, dude, maybe you need some wise counsel in your life to speak into you, you know?
Yeah. And
so there's that side of it too. Yeah. Like some people get into business or like an entrepreneur journey. It's like, dude, you probably should not be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I think that and
they're not hating. They're just saying, bro.
Right. Well, and then I think at the point too, hear what I'm saying. Like if somebody, if your parent's like a school teacher, right, and they're saying go after your dreams, and you're like, we're not going. That is their dream. It's not like you got to go build a massive business organization. Like, you know, God's got you, you know, rooted there. But the question is, are you doing everything you can in that platform you've got? Are you doing your best? Are you creative? Are you still imagining? Are you still excited? Are you still passionate about it and doing your best to be the best in that category? I mean, that's the kind of, because I don't want anybody to be like, well, does that mean I should be going out and build a big business? No, that's not. That might not be your calling. Not everybody's called necessarily to do that, right? All right, so let's go to one more. I like this one, dude. How do you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance?
It's a good one. You got to get around abundance. I remember my dad used to tell a story when I was little, not to me, but like people he would meet, because he was always like the one that made it, like at a bar stove, you know. And he says that when he graduated high school, he wanted to go. He went on like a trip for school down to Huntington Beach, and he had never seen like wealth. Like he just lived in Barstow basically his whole life, like the high desert. He had never seen the beach. Like the family never went on beach vacations. He didn't see like people his age like thriving. And so they went on a trip, and he came back and he's like, I'm going to college in Huntington Beach. And they're like, why? Like what's in Huntington Beach? He's like, I just want to get in Huntington Beach. And he's like, so he did. He went and played college football there. ended up starting working like security jobs, like doing concert venues, and ended up opening up his own like security practice essentially, and ended up selling it like later on in his 20s. But I think it's just a good picture of like, you don't know what is until you go see what there actually is out there. You know, it's like,
that's good, man.
There's a lid in your hometown, like there's a lid in your family, like you got to see what else is out there. That's even for me, man. That's why it's so important to go to like conferences. Like I know you're big on like, dude, let's gather the people, let's go see like something bigger than us, let's go get around people who are doing it at a higher level, because then the truth is, what you end up finding out is the people doing it at a higher level are just like you.
Yeah.
They've just taken more action. They've just been probably doing it longer and been more consistent, and just did it with more like veracity. Or that's the right word? But
sounded good to me. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to use it on Sunday.
Veracity.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, I think you just got to get around abundance. Like I think when you've been around scarcity for so long, it becomes normal.
Yeah.
But when you can see people doing things at a high level, it's, to me at least, it's encouraging. It's motivating. Like I don't hate. I'm like, dude, I want that.
Yeah.
I go to a big church conference and I see pastors that have a lot of influence. I'm like, man, I want that. Yeah. Not because like I want to grow for me, but I want the impact that they're having.
Yeah.
Like
that's good.
I want the breakthrough that they're seeing in not only their lives but in the people's lives around them. So I think you got to get around
That's good, dude. I mean, it's like
it starts there.
Yeah, the law of exposure.
Yeah.
Once you're exposed to something, you can't be unexposed to it. And so, I mean, that's the first step. And then I think celebrating, dude. Like I would say, whatever you celebrate will elevate in your life. And so, if you're celebrating others, successes, you're going to be more likely to get that. But if you're like, oh, look at them with that money, look at them with that, this and that, like, dude, good luck. Like, you think you're going to go out and attract the very thing that you're saying you despise, right. And subconsciously you're saying, so like, be careful what you say, because what you say is going to grow. Yeah. And so, even at like, conference, I remember being young and hearing it, dude, like it's common to like, I remember being 19 to go into a sales conference and hearing like the little chatter, like, oh, that person, they probably, and like they would give reasons of why they were successful and why therefore they couldn't, because it was qualifiers that they couldn't get, right? Like their parents or whatever. And I remember almost thinking like, dude, I want to throw up in my mouth listening to you. Right. Like, and then what do I do with it? Do I spit it on you because you made me do it? Like it was just like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But if you're celebrating it, you're more likely to go after and get it. You know what I mean? So celebrate those things. And it might be difficult because you're like, dude, I'm struggling in this area, and they're killing it. And so it makes me feel, no, be like, all right, if they can do it, so can I. Yeah. Right? And I think that's the thing. And even like the abundance mindset comes down to like, if you're in business, like I feel like when I looked at different organizations and agencies, there'd be some that were like, oh, I can't recruit there because there's not enough leads. It's like, that's a lack mindset, dude. Yeah. The abundance mindset is that there's more than enough. And the truth is there's more than enough income, 100%. More than enough business, more than enough, all of that for you to grow into your next level everywhere. But it's how you see it. And if you see it as a lack situation, you're going to produce lack results. Dude,
it's 100% true. That's why I've seen that, in the ministry world too. It's like when a new church comes into town, it's like you got two options as a pastor. Like you either embrace it or you hate on it, right? So it's like I've experienced it myself. Like when we opened up the doors back in 2021, it's like some pastors were like, dude, we can't, wait, I can't wait to meet you. I gotta take you to lunch. Like I want to hear the vision. Like what do you guys got going on? And dude, you see those pastors like their ministries are thriving. Yeah. Like we were no threat. And we're thriving, right? Yeah. So it's like what you're saying. There's room for everyone, but then the ones are like, "Dude, you can't be here." Like, what are you doing? It's just initial hit for the first couple weeks. It's gonna go down. Oh, you just get, you're the young guy. You're this, that will fade. Well, it's like 4 years later, like their ministry is no longer in place, and I don't think it's a coincidence. It's like a mindset that we're speaking to. It's like, man, there's enough to go around until all 8 billion of people have heard the gospel. Like, dude, what are we talking about? Yeah, right. It's like there's enough leads, for business. There's enough houses to be sold. There's enough accounts to be cleaned. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? And so it's that shift from going, man, we have this natural lid that's either given to us by our family, our environment, our city, or whatever, but like, if someone's done it before, it's possible for you to. Yeah. Like despite background, despite education, like if someone's done it, that means you could do it too.
I love that, dude. Well, I think this hopefully served you well, served me, and I think at the end of the day, one affirmation that I had related back because that negative question it was right in front of me again. It's like maybe just say like they don't matter. Right, not that they're not valued, but like their opinion doesn't matter, and just you say that over and over again. What'll happen is when you hear that, it won't matter, right? Because you've kind of conditioned yourself to see it that way. But hey, this week, let's go out there and take the lid off. Let's shift our perspective from lack to abundance. And for myself, for Brandon, for all of us, there's always different levels of that. And so it's not like, oh, I don't have any kind of lack mindset. You might have abundant mindset in a lot of areas, and then maybe there's some little bit of lack shows up in one. But the goal is to be self-aware so we can go out there and level up our life in all these areas that do matter most. And so, guys, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We love you. Hey, go make it a big week. Be strong. Stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you next week. See you guys.